Good morning, Natalie and Angela. This is Kelly Crandall. I have your slides available as PDF so I can share those, but we will make you a co-host just in case. And let us know if it's easier for you to share.
Okay, it'll actually be Saul who'll be presenting for us today. I'm just going to be lurking and helping if there's anything that I can assist with.
Great.
But I think it'll be fine for you probably to just do the slides.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Kelly, can you hear me okay? This is Natalie.
Hi, Natalie. Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Thought I'd check my mic. It'll be myself and Jennifer Bass presenting today, and I will let her know that you will share. I think she was planning on it, but we don't have a preference, so I'll just let her know.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Kelly, can you hear and see me okay?
I can, yes. You're a little crackly in the audio, but I think it's probably okay.
Is this okay?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Trisha, is this better?
That
Actually,
sounds good.
that one I was breaking up on my end a little bit. The other one where it looked like it was from a phone was a little bit better.
All right. I'll bounce back and forth.
Oh, actually, right now it sounded okay.
Okay. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Good morning. I'm Art Blank, and this is the Commissioner's Information Meeting in proceeding 23M-0013EG. Looking forward to the conversation. Commissioner Plant, any preliminary remarks before we jump into it?
No. Good morning, everybody. I'm just really excited that we're having this conversation. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Commissioner Gilman?
Yeah, good morning. And wanted to just thank our staff for helping put this together and all of the different agencies and groups we'll hear from today to help, especially in the lead up to the heating season, customers to understand how they can pursue assistance if they believe they may qualify. So excited to hear the content today and get that information out.
Yeah, me too. I guess the winter heating season officially starts November 1st. There's a lot of bill assistance and income qualified programs out there by the state, local governments, and the utilities, and very much looking forward to learning about the program. So, Ms. Ensai, you want to get us going with the upcoming heating season and a recap of the utility and other bill assistance programs out there?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. I am Tricia Anstey. I am the Affordability Project Manager on staff, and I work primarily on the percentage of income payment plan programs and the policy surrounding those, and how the PUC can better serve our customers who are most in need of energy assistance to ensure safe, reliable service. I also run the Utility Bill Help Pilot Program for the PUC in partnership with DORA. And today I'll be talking about how and why the Utility Bill Help Program was developed, the results of the program, the successes, the lessons learned, and how we can continue to improve the energy assistance programs, customer relations, customer communication, and even how these programs are delivered. Specifically in the 2024-25 season, and then we will also discuss a little bit of how next steps in potential rulemakings. So go ahead and you can go to the next slide. So I wanted to just briefly talk about the percentage of income payment plan programs. These are programs that all the regulated utilities are required to have. They limit a customer's utility bill to no less than 3% and no more than 6% of their annual income. And there are, prior to this year, the only way that a customer could get into one of these programs was through LEAP. Through House Bill 1105 EOC and the weatherization program were also added to the list of folks who could refer customers to be enrolled in the PIP program. So I'm going to refer from now on to it as the PIP program, which is the percentage of income payment plan. In addition to those three ways that a customer could get referred to a PIP program through their utility, DORA and the PUC recognized that there was a gap in how customers could access these programs. So for LEAP, if you were approved for LEAP, you could be referred to the programs, but if you were denied, you were not referred to any of the PIP programs. Additionally, as I've listed out here on this slide, LEAP is 60% state median income is the level of payment that or IQ you can get to be referred. However, for the PIP programs, you could be referred by making up to 80% state median income. So we saw that there was a gap there between the 60% state median income and 80% area median income customers who could be referred. Now, for EOC bill assistance, in order to apply with them, you have to be behind on your bill. So if you were a customer that was in need, you weren't eligible for LEAP, and you weren't behind on your bill, you still didn't have a pathway for referral. And then lastly, if you were not eligible for weatherization, which homes are only weatherized every 15 years. So if you didn't fit in any of those categories, you were not able to have access to the PIP programs. And that is how the utility bill help program came about. So this was in addition to, in 2023, Governor Polis asked state agencies and the nonprofits and the utilities to come together to find new ways to make rates, or I won't say rates, address affordability in response to high utility bills that were experienced in the winter of 2022. So based on all of this, the utility bill help program was established as a safety net. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this program was to increase PIP program enrollment based on triennial evaluations done in 2022, and one we'll be discussing that was done also in 2023, indicated that enrollments were as low as about 20% of all income qualified customers. So we know that we weren't getting everybody in who could be eligible for assistance. And it was to provide those income qualified customers with access to all available energy assistance. We want folks to apply for LEAP. We want them to also have access to PIP. And this was a safety net to capture all those eligible IQ customers who weren't eligible in any of those other pathways to access the PIP program. So for the method that we use of the PUC for IQ eligibility, because let me reiterate what that IQ eligibility is. You could be making up to 80% area median income, 200% federal poverty level. So we required applicants to apply and be denied LEAP first. That way, if they applied for LEAP and they were approved, great. They were already being referred over to the utilities, but we knew that we could capture the gap there. We also were requiring the applicants to receive state assistance benefits for categorical IQ. And what that means is that the PUC was not taking any like income statements or anything from a customer if they were enrolled in, say, SNAP, WIC. We knew that they were income eligible for these programs because those programs have those same income eligible requirements. And then we were requiring the applicants to be a customer of one of the 4 investor-owned utilities. So that's Xcel Energy, Black Hills Energy, Atmos Energy, and Colorado Natural Gas. So the mechanics of the program were we started accepting applications in December of 2023, and we went all the way to June 2024. We used a secure online Google form, and the applicants could print an application up as well, or and mail it in. They could email it in, or they could apply online. And lastly, the applications were provided in both English and Spanish. Next slide, please. So some of the ways that we were doing outreach, first and foremost, we did an interagency data sharing agreement with LEAP. So any customer that was denied LEAP, monthly, LEAP would send us that customer's information, their email, and then we would email them and say, we know you denied LEAP, you may still be eligible for this other energy assistance program. And in addition to that, when LEAP sent out their denial letter, there was language on that letter about UBH. which is the utility bill help program. I'll be referring to it as UBH from now on. We also did partnerships with utilities, specifically Excel emailed their customers who were behind on their bills to say, this program is available. You may still be eligible for benefits. Since you're behind, you should apply. We also had the program shown on My Friend Ben. That is a done by Gary Ventures. It's a nonprofit organization where it's essentially like an online calculator that says if you put in your income and where you live and all those things, here's all the benefits that you could be eligible for. And so the UBH program was on there as well. We did do webinars with human services and community navigators to make sure they understood not only what this program was, but also what the PIP program was and how it interfaced with LEAP and the difference between the two. And lastly, we sent texts out through Bright by Text, which is a nonprofit organization that provides early childhood development resources for parents. So we were trying to capture folks who may have younger children who are needing energy assistance. And so we sent that to 2,000 Bright by Text subscribers. Next slide, please. So by the end of June 2024, we had processed 768 applications, and of those, 85% of those applicants were determined eligible. So they were income qualified and referred to the IOUs for consideration of a PIP program benefit. I always like to clarify that if it's coming from LEAP, if it's coming from us, if it's coming from EOC, or from the weatherization program, we are referring customers over, and the utilities do a calculation of energy burden in addition to income in order to determine final eligibility. So because of that, 51% of the referrals that we sent over were enrolled to receive a fixed monthly credit. Now, 50 applicants were not eligible for PIP benefits, but they did receive a one-time arrearage forgiveness through Xcel Energy because they were behind on their arrears, but potentially didn't meet that 6%. They were less than 6% of their income on their energy usage. So they still got that one-time arrearage forgiveness. And then all IOUs agreed to keep those enrolled through EOC, CEO, so that's the WAP program, and UBH for the 2024-2025 heating season. So normally we have customers need to reapply every year for the PIP program, but we recognize those who got in through LEAP already have to reapply every year. But for those who applied through these other pathways, it was a very challenging situation to have to communicate that out to customers. So we agreed to keep everybody in for this next season while we figure out some better ways and policies on how to keep people in or how we communicate how they reapply and where they reapply for these programs. Next slide. So most of our household size and income was between 1 and 2 people. We didn't have as many folks with a larger household size and income. I don't know if I have any real insights into that yet, although I do know that there is an older population that is on fixed income that benefit from this program significantly. We did have a Spanish application. We did, and there was a small percentage of folks who said they prefer to receive the info in Spanish. We continued to keep that available for anybody who needed it. It was significant to note that 75% of those who applied with UBH received SNAP benefits. That's a high correlation. And then 75% of those applicants were also renters. Next slide. So we did see some big successes for data collection and customer experience improvements as well. We noticed that emails from the PUC and from Xcel Energy were the most effective ways in reaching customers and receiving applications. 56% of our applicants applied because they had received an email, and our highest month of receiving applications was June. We had 399 applications in June, and that was really a direct result of Xcel doing a email campaign out and emailing those who were behind. And I'm guessing there's some correlation with the LEAP season being closed as well, so LEAP money potentially running out for customers, and they were still looking. Well, although I don't know about that, but it's possible that that was some sort of correlation, that since the LEAP season was closed, someone who didn't get to apply couldn't get assistance another way. But I do think those email campaigns were pretty significant. We partnered with all of the Colorado energy assistance providers to map the customer experience to energy assistance programs. And that really resulted in seeing that it's a confusing web. And it would be very easy to fall out of the application process before you even received any benefits. So all of us have really started looking at how do we communicate better, how do we make processes easier, how do we do warm handoffs when we can, so to make it easier for the customer to access benefits. We created that interagency partnership with LEAP and CDHS to reach eligible applicants that need help the most. So starting to really do more cooperation and partnership to help our customers. And lastly, running UVH really provided firsthand knowledge to the PUC of the ways to improve access and delivery of the PIP program, having boots on the ground and really seeing how that customer experience went for not only for the customers, but how each agency and partner has to process data and refer customers, really gave us insight on ways to improve. Next slide, please. So we definitely had some challenges of the program. I would have loved to see more applicants. I think some of that was we did start a little later in the season. We only reached out to customers through getting that data through LEAP, and that was a data lag. So we would have to process applications for a month and then send us that customer information so that we could email them out. And then, it limited applicants and required applicants to apply for LEAP. We made that a requirement so that we weren't doubling up on applications or referrals to the utilities. But what that did is put an administrative burden on LEAP to have people apply who knew that they were not eligible, but that was, the key to getting into our program. And then I think for the customer that, we were asking people to apply to LEAP if they weren't eligible, and it's a long application process to do when you're just going to get denied. So some of our outreach methods could use improvement. We never received any applicants from CNG. 90% of our applicants were from Xcel. I want to say, let's see, and the 4% were from Black Hills, 4% from app. We did not receive as many rural residential applicants. Most applicants came from the metro area, Denver, Arapahoe, Adams, and Jefferson counties. So we know that we're potentially not reaching some of the communities that we could be. The PUC had to IQ through customer proof of other government benefits The PIP program is open to those who are not citizens, but if you had to have proof of other government benefits, that did limit those applicants. And then customers through PUC UBH did not receive interim protection from disconnection. And the reason for this is UBH is simply referring applicants to the IOU's programs, but we do not provide monetary assistance. So we could not prevent disconnection in that interim when they applied with us and were processed and then enrolled in the program. As I mentioned before, re-enrollment communication was challenging. Just about, you'd have to remember or know that where you applied is the one that referred you to the IOU to then apply and re-enroll again. And lastly, we used a Google form as an application, but because we were asking folks to upload proof of benefits, you had to have a Google email to apply, and that not everybody has one of those. And so that was a limiting factor in those who could apply. Next slide. So we've had quite a few lessons learned here. And one of them is that each IOU calculates energy burden slightly different. And how the LEAP benefits are applied to the calculation can impact eligibility. And what I mean by that is if someone is receiving LEAP and they have an energy burden calculation and they're determined to have an energy burden, that LEAP benefit can go towards that unaffordable portion. And if it does, and it covers the whole unaffordable portion, then they are not eligible for PIP benefits. So that's definitely, I think it's a limiting factor we'll look at in the future. Approximately 50 to 60% of referrals from EOC, CEO, so that's WAP and UBH were enrolled in PIP programs. So, I mean, that's, 50, 60%. I'd love to see it higher, but it just means that they didn't meet that energy burden calculation. But it could be as low as 20% from LEAP in some instances. And I think, again, that comes back to that first point of how the LEAP benefit is being applied to that calculation. 6% is often not an affordable percentage for customers. I saw time and again, someone would be, not considered energy burden, but still in arrears. And I think that speaks to the potential of a changing climate where it's just 6% is maybe not affordable anymore. In general, we're really only currently helping customers making less than $20,000 per year. So to put that in perspective, if you are a household of two, and you're making $20,000 per year, you're at 100% federal poverty level. So even at that instance, say you are not income qualified, if you are determined to not be eligible for benefits, and you're only at 100% FPL, and yet we say you could be income eligible at 80% or 200% FPL. So that feels very widely. We're saying you can apply if you're, make 200% federal poverty level, but somebody at 100% may not actually be considered energy burden. And I'm going to go a little further with that calculation. So 6% of $20,000 a year in income for utilities is $1,200 per year. So it would say that if your utilities are above $1,200 per year, you could be eligible for this program. And that comes out to be $120 per month. But on average, rent, let's say you're a family of two, your rent is $1,200 a month. You're only making $1,600 a month. So then let's say you make $400, that's $400 left over for utilities, food, medical benefits. It's not a lot of money when you look at it in that 6% potentially not being affordable. So if somebody who's paying 6% of their utilities is under the 200% FPL, they are actually far more burdened than somebody who is middle or higher income. And the fact of the matter is, even if arrearages are cleared, which the first time a customer comes into these programs, often their arrearages are cleared for the first time, it still leads to the making the choices of between heating and eating. And then the households get behind on the bills again, and it creates a cycle of getting into arrearage, into disconnection. And it's, so I think that's, you know, what I have seen in general is that 6% may not be an affordable percentage. If a customer is efficient with their energy usage, right, they are saying, well, if I had to choose between heat and heat, I'm going to keep things colder, right? You keep your house cold to save money, and then you appear to be falsely have an affordable bill. What we want people to do is have a safe, comfortable household, but then they appear to have low energy usage, so then they don't appear to be energy burdened. And lastly, this is a fixed monthly benefit, which makes IQ customers vulnerable to rate increases, and it also makes them vulnerable to those hotter or colder months. So, you know, if you have a fixed monthly benefit of $20, but it's a very cold month and you're turning the heat up, you still are only going to have that $20 income or credit, but you're still going to pay more per month. So moving on from energy burden calculations, there is the issue of appropriate funding. Black Hills has a wait list for both electric and gas. And so how we communicate to the customers and do outreach is different, because we want to make sure they understand that they may be eligible, but there's currently a wait list, where in some of the other utilities there isn't a wait list. It's a confusing customer experience that showed up time and again. It's unclear how to get into PIP programs, and that they must apply every year. It's not sometimes some folks don't even know they've been referred, so then the benefit shows up on their bill and they're like, yay. And then it goes away, and then they didn't know, oh, I had to reapply. There is some confusion about auto referral versus auto enrollment. And this goes to what I was talking about before. All of the pathways to PIP are for auto referral. We are auto referring folks, but there is still that energy burden calculation that must be done before they are enrolled. And so in this instance, if customers applied, say, through UBH, they will only hear back from the utility if they're considered eligible, not if they are not eligible. And that led to a lot of customer service issues on the UBH end, where we'd have to say, oh, yeah, you aren't eligible, and here's why, the energy burden calculation. And so I'll be talking about this soon, but that's going to have to be we have to improve that customer experience. If you're applying, you need to know whether you're in or not. And then customers are unclear about the difference between PIP program benefits and LEAP benefits. We fielded a lot of emails and calls about, I know you got LEAP benefits, and then LEAP is going to refer you, so you don't need to apply with us, and what the difference is, because LEAP is that one-time payment versus this, which is contingent on energy burden and is a monthly benefit for the whole year. So I think we can do a better job of educating on that as well. And lastly, arrearage forgiveness in disconnection locks. Customers can be disconnected while in a PIP program or while in process of applying. It is, for most of the utilities, it is less likely they will they will disconnect while they're in a PIP program. But if they do get behind and don't pay while in the PIP program, they can be disconnected. It was more common for that to happen in the process of applying. In those instances, we often tried to refer folks to either apply for LEAP, because LEAP can put a hold on disconnection, and or EOC, because they could also put a hold on the disconnection. And then customers may not be able to participate in PIP if their arrearages are too large. If the arrearages are large enough that they can't pay it back within 24 months, then they are just not considered eligible for the program. Next slide. So some of the enhancements, we are going to be doing the utility bill help program this year. We know that there's a need for it. We are opening next week, November 1st, and we will stay open until June 2025. We are no longer requiring applicants to be denied LEAP first. We still encourage everybody to apply for LEAP and get all the benefits that they can for energy assistance, but we're removing the administrative burden of applying for LEAP first, to see if that makes a difference in the application numbers, but also it's just easier to help with LEAP. The regular updates on enrollments from utilities. So we're going to get regular updates from the utilities on who's being enrolled so that we can communicate with customers better about whether or not they are enrolled in the program and became eligible or not, so that we can tell them right away if they are eligible or not. But this is also going to give us some more information about the effectiveness of the PIP program and the UVH program. When we know how many people are getting enrolled versus referred, we can start understanding if the energy burden needs to change, if what we say the IQ eligibility should change. I think we need a little more data on that, and this is going to be one of the ways we do that. We are going to do more targeted outreach through the utilities to reach their customers who need the assistance the most. And lastly, we're going to do a monthly public-facing dashboard that shows data from LEAP, WAP, EOC, UVH, and the IOU PIP programs throughout the year. This will be on the website. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But what I will say is, for those customers who ultimately are not eligible for PIP and do not get in through the UVH program, the UVH program will be sending them an email that says that they were not eligible, so that they are informed. And that's all I have. I'm going to hand this over to Kelly now, Kelly Crandall, to talk a little bit more about next steps and the PIP evaluation.
Oh, sorry. We'll actually come back to that piece at the very end. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Next slide. So these are the resources for applying for UVH, and you can find the material. And then there'll be materials for this meeting that folks can access. Next slide.
Commissioners, we have a little bit of time for your questions before we move into the next panel, if you'd like.
I did have one. Ms. Anstey, how does this fit in with and the co-ops? Is this going to get integrated or totally separate?
So these PIP programs are only for the regulated utilities. They are not, they don't apply to the co-ops. There are co-ops, some of them, that have assistance programs, but as it stands, no, they are not connected.
So it's fragmented by based on who your service provider is, it sounds like.
It is. It is. So for PIP programs, it is only those 4 regulated utilities I mentioned before: Xcel, Black Hills, Atmos, and CNG. if one were to apply through EOC, they could also get benefits, or they could receive benefits through other utilities, but those, I believe those funds are limited.
Well, thanks for your work. Sounds like lots of progress and lots of work still to do. Commissioner Plant, questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, thanks. I had a lot of the same thoughts there, Mr. Chairman. I think, I mean, it's a real, obviously, you've got to start somewhere, and starting, as the PUC, starting with our regulated utilities makes a lot of sense, but we've got a huge gap in the rural co-op areas, with generally lower income, generally higher fixed costs for utilities. And, a lot of people are on propane, a lot of, it's not a very good state approach in my, in my opinion, but I get that, we're trying to design something and you start where you are. I had a couple of questions just, based on some of the things that you said. I think you said that the most effective way of reaching applicants was through email, and that there was a email in June by Excel that was particularly effective. But at that point, the LEAP program is closed, right? And so you had a denial of LEAP requirement. So how did that fit in with the LEAP program being closed and needing to have a denial?
Yeah, that's a great question. We removed it. We removed the requirement because we were like, well, that doesn't make sense anymore, and there's still people who need help.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right, that makes sense. So, and I guess, maybe that's one of the things that informs your decision to take that LEAP requirement out. So I was struck by your comment that the 6% is maybe not the best metric, and because it's, a pretty generic measurement, and people's situations are all different. I mean, is there another measurement or another metric that you think might be more appropriate? I mean, subtracting out housing costs, adjusting for family size. Is there some sort of, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple ways we could look at that. We could lower the energy burden because, maybe 6%, it is generic, but by lowering it, we would be not, like, say, to a 4% or something, which has been done in a couple states. Because of that, you're not so heavily impacting low income folks then, right? Because you're saying 6%, maybe, because anybody who's higher income is definitely not 6% income utilities. You could also do it by percentage and census block. Like, you go and say, the average income on a census block is X amount. So you would do 20 or 25% off on that bill. Or you could also do it as a percentage off just based on income, right? So at a certain level, like maybe if whatever your cap decided to be, like at 35,000 or whatever, it's 20 or 25% off your bill on a monthly basis. That might be a more equitable way of doing it. I don't know if it would be useful or not to do it by, like, subtracting out average household costs. I don't know what the administrative burden of doing a calculation like that would look like on the other end of things. But it is worth looking at.
Yeah, I remember, I mean, this was a long time ago, but one of the things that, came up about the federal poverty level was that it was based, I think it was based on like a 1950s evaluation of the costs of groceries or something. And then it's just been adjusted for income. And it doesn't include things like childcare or things like transportation or things like, changes in housing costs or all these various things that have happened, over the last 70 years. And I just wonder if there's some other metric that's being created out there that maybe would be more accurate, would catch some of those disparities that you're seeing. Um, I just also was curious, was Colorado Peak used as an outreach mechanism? Is sort of like a centralized hub for,
Yeah, it was not.
yeah.
It was not used as an outreach mechanism.
I was just wondering, what the sort of centralized hub is for these kind of programs, when we've got all these different utilities that are communicating in all these different ways, is there any kind of centralized mechanism for people to get their information?
Yeah, I mean, I might want to defer to TK on this, but because Peak is used for, I mean, you could apply to Leap through it, and it is used for Snap and for all those other things, but Leap isn't connected to CBMS, which is the back end of things. So
Is that the back end of Peak, basically, and that's what drives the CBMS, qualifier. Okay.
yeah.
And then I was just curious, because we have so many sort of cross customers, right? Did you see any difference? Like, for example, if somebody's a Excel Energy electric and gas customer, versus if somebody was getting messages from Excel and Atmos, or they were getting, those kinds of customers that sort of cross over the lines. Only an Excel gas customer, but maybe they're not getting information on this from their electric utility because their electric utility doesn't participate. Was there any kind of differential there?
I think I don't know if I saw a ton of differential. I'm not sure I really was paying attention to that as much, but I always knew that if somebody applied, we asked them if they had a separate provider for their gas versus their electric, and would always refer them to both on our end. But I would have a guess that they generally found out through one provider. If they had two, they found out through one and then realized, oh, I could get it through the two. But
Yeah.
I did see a number of them where it was like they were getting gas from an IOU, but then had electric through someone else, like through a municipality, and they really didn't need the help on the gas side. They needed it through the municipality side, and we weren't able to help them on that side.
Yeah. One last question. Sorry to take
No,
up so much
please.
time.
You're good. You're good.
Very good.
Oh, dang it. Now I lost it.
Well, maybe you aren't good.
Maybe I'm not good.
Do you want to get
Yeah.
you want to get a Commissioner Gilman and come back?
Yeah, let me see
we'll
if I
come
can
back to
remember
you.
what the last question was. All right, thanks.
I know how it goes, so wave
No worry,
your
but there's
hands.
gonna be
Wave your hands wildly. if
you're
it comes
there's
back
gonna
in
be
your
some
brain.
build up. Go ahead, Commissioner Gilman.
Miss Nancy, first of all, thank you, and to Director White and to Dora for supporting this effort and for the vision to at least try. I think your points are well taken. I think there's a lot going on, which is great. There are a lot of really dedicated people engaged here, but there's also perhaps a lot of ground to make up to ensure that these programs are as useful and easy to get into as possible. So we really are, I think each time we do, a PIP evaluation, we find we're only helping a small percentage of the people who appear to be eligible. And so it's difficult to know there are so many people who really do likely qualify for a lot of these programs that are just not taking advantage for one reason or another. I think you bring up many possible reasons why that's more difficult or isn't happening. So appreciate your focus kind of in the short term on using this program and improving this program to help, I think, plug some of the holes, make some of the connections to make things happen. And then really appreciate your focus in learning these programs and the different things inside and out to help us figure out longer term what are more sustainable and holistic ways to kind of grease the wheels here and make this easier for the folks who really need help. So a few questions for you. Back to what you're talking about with Commissioner Plant regarding the 6% energy burden and kind of your comments that 6% may not be the right number, or that just might not be the most appropriate metric. Is that universal across the IOUs, the 6%, and kind of where does that come from? Like where would that have to be changed if it were changed?
Oh, great question. It is across the IOUs. It's in our rules. The PC rules state that, you know, that 6% is of income for utilities is the affordable amount.
Okay, so that could be something that could be looked at, let's say, as part of a larger rulemaking effort focused on equity and
Correct.
affordability.
Yes.
Just try and find the avenues where we
Yep.
go. I think you also talked, maybe with the chairman, about kind of the fragmentation of the approach, since a lot of these programs, the PIP programs, are utility by utility, really only at the investor-owned utilities. And kind of to add to that, we have the issue where certain investor-owned utilities have wait lists.
Yeah.
And so while there should be a program, there technically is a program if you're a new customer for you. It does not appear that there is. You can't get in. So curious, kind of any insights we have. I mean, I know, at least I think on the electric side, that wait list for Black Hills has been a long time issue. Is there any solution to break through that? I mean, is that, and I guess part of this is a bigger question, and like in the fragmented approach where this is applied utility by utility, and understandably there are some utilities where the rates and socioeconomic situations make it more, there is a greater need showing up, and you really only have that group of customers that ends up subsidizing each other. So a lot of questions there. Is there a bigger approach we should be looking for? Should we be thinking bigger about this problem than just keeping it in the silos of utilities, which sometimes seem to perpetuate the problems?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to let Kelly answer this, but while she's coming on, I'll say, to clarify what you're asking, the ratepayers are who fund these PIP programs. They can go up to $1 on everyone's bill. So that's basically what. And so what you're asking is there something, a different funding source that we could add to it, so that we could also make it less fragmented? I think there could be an opportunity for that. There's a lot of options, I think, that maybe avenues we could look at that didn't put it solely on the shoulders of the ratepayer. Kelly, do you want to add on to that?
Just very briefly, I mean, that's a great point. As you talk to speakers today, you'll hear from folks who are leveraging ratepayer funding, federal funding, state funding, local government funding, charitable donations, and all sorts of sources like that. So it is pretty complicated, and there's a lot of work to try to braid all of those together. And it can be an administrative burden for the folks involved here. I wanted to touch briefly on your kind of questions about energy burden calculations and wait lists and things like that. Some of these things are incorporated in our rules, some of them aren't. And at the end, I'll come back to, at the end of the information meeting, I'll come back to a little bit how we're starting to group these topics for additional work, because I do think some are potentially candidates for workshops, some are candidates for rulemakings, some may require collaboration that's beyond the commission, as you're raising, because the commission, some of this is statutorily directed in places. So appreciate those questions, and I am, as you all are kind of raising these, continuing to make notes, because we are thinking about the work plan for next steps and what sort of things are resonating with you all for additional work.
Thanks. I just have one more question while we're here. So you had mentioned that customers who apply for PIP have not received, generally don't receive any communication if they're rejected or not accepted into the program, which is, it's blowing my mind a little. You can apply for something and just not hear one way or another. And so it sounds like there's at least an interim improvement to that, where the utilities will send to you, to the PUC who's rejected, and then the PUC will tell the customer you're rejected. Which sounds like it has some benefit in terms of data collection, and that like the PUC can get better transparency and see what is going on. But also like more complicated than it needs to be. Why on earth are the people making the decision and processing the application not just directly communicating to the customer, you are in or you are out? You could get copied on the response and still do data collection, but like, why have we involved more people and put extra steps and time in this? Like, can the utility just go directly to the customer and tell them if they're in or out?
So I asked the same, and the reason it has not gone this way is because if they are referred by LEAP, they don't know they're being referred. And so then if they were starting to send everybody emails or letters that say you're not in, some people are gonna be like, I didn't even apply for this. What is this? And we were concerned that would create like a customer assistance situation. Now, I would say that gets to the core of that everybody probably should know they're being referred. But this was the only solution we came up with at this point. But I do hear what you're saying.
Okay, well, no, I appreciate that complication of it. And like I said before, I appreciate you coming up with somewhat interim solutions to plug some of these holes, but like keeping our eye on the prize of like fewer steps, fewer people involved, better communication is gonna win the day here if we can figure out how to get it done. Okay, cool. Those are my questions, but really appreciate you and appreciate you really aiding the PUC in what we understand and see about how these programs work. This is a difficult area to tackle with so many different kind of entities and requirements and players and processes, and really appreciate you being able to have this continued focus on it to bring that expertise to us in a way I don't think we've really had before.
Yeah, thank you. I'm honored to do it.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilman. Commissioner Plant, do you have a remaining question?
So there was one of the slides, I think it was somewhere around 750, 800 applicants had been approved based on their qualifications. And then I think it said 51% went on to participation in the program. Do you know what was the reason of the half that didn't, of that cohort?
Yeah, some of it is they didn't meet the energy burden calculation. Some of it is duplication. So a customer might apply at LEAP and EOC, right? And then there's a crossover and they're already in one. And so that's one way we're going to start collecting data, is calling it scrubbed and unscrubbed. So we can get a better accurate percentage of who's getting in or who isn't because of energy burden versus overlap.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's, somebody moved addresses, or like the account isn't active anymore, so then they weren't eligible because the account isn't active, or the address isn't correct anymore. There are a few of those administrative reasons too. I would say probably, yeah, maybe energy burden is probably a larger part of that, but there is the overlap too. I feel like this year I'll have a better answer for that as to what is really going on.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have one more question that Commissioner Plant's question triggered in me, which is something I've been concerned about for a long time. It sounds like we're serving hundreds, thousands of customers, but I recall data from at least for Excel, the last two rate cases where the number of income qualified customers in their service territory, is 400,000. It just, as I listen to this, it just strikes me. And, as I listen to your conversation about wanting to, expand the definitions of energy burden, just sometimes seems like the need so far overwhelms the resources. And, when you look at all these restrictions about applying and what you have to do, it seems like it skews towards helping the most sophisticated customers. So I don't, I don't know. I keep wanting to focus on those customers we're disconnecting because those are the people, because the utility knows who they are, and it's a world where maybe it's targeting the customers most in need, and maybe it's better aligned with the resources we have available. So I keep throwing that out. I'm not expecting you to have answers to all that, but I mean, that's my continual struggle when I hear we're helping hundreds or thousands of customers when the need is clearly hundreds of thousands of customers. And, we really reward those who are sophisticated enough to participate. So I throw that out there without expecting you to solve the larger problem. But with 4 minutes left before we shift to our next speaker. So any comments on that, Ms. Ansai?
I would say we are helping. We're helping a smaller percentage than we would like. I think we need to get a better handle on truly calculating who is income eligible. I don't think that's been consistently identified. And then I think I agree with you. You need to be quite savvy to get yourself through this. I think that there are ways we can simplify how people apply and how they get access to services, not only energy assistance services, but other services. So it's a wraparound, right? So that you don't have to keep applying for all the little things. And I guess lastly, I'll say, I think that we have to decide what the definition of success of these PIP programs are. Is it an increased enrollment? Is it, who we sit, like when we're saying who's burdened and who, I think that's, we have to get really clear on that. And then we can start building the structure around that so that there is easier access, that we know how to get that access to people. So that's what I'll say to that.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for your leadership. It's great having you on board, and it sounds like we're making some progress. So
yes, thank you.
Our next component of today's sim is the 2024-2025 heating season, the Energy Assistance Panel. We have Ms. Cullen, the lead program manager from the Colorado Department of Human Services. Ms. Cullen, you're up.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about our program. It's the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. Federally, it's referred to as the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP. In Colorado, we refer to it just as LEAP. Next slide, please. Okay, so LEAP helps low to moderate income residents pay a portion of their heating costs. It can assist both homeowners and renters. The program started back in the 1980s and is a federally funded block grant program. So our program receives the federal block grant only. We do not receive state funds on top of our federal block grant. And last little thing here on the P, there we go. LEAP receives approximately $60 million in a block grant annually, and households can be assisted one time per season. So when we approve someone for the benefit, we're approving them for the program year, which is November 1 through April 30th. So they get a lump sum benefit applied to their account. 90% of our payments are vendor payments directly to their utility companies, and about 10% are cash benefits put on their EBT card because their utility vendor either isn't a vendor of ours, or it may be that they pay their landlord directly for their utilities on top of their rent or included in their rent. We never pay vendors for that are landlords. We give the applicant the money directly. Next slide, please. Our program year, as I said, is November 1 through April 30th. There are a number of ways that an individual can apply. We have a heat help hotline, and you can request an information or an application there. You can get the status of your application if you're wondering, hey, did you get my application, or is it pending for information? You can call and get the status. And it's also a mechanism to apply over the telephone. And we started this right at the beginning of the pandemic, which obviously was quite appreciated, and it has grown. Basically, the phone applications is an avenue for people to apply if they have additional barriers that they can't go through a different way. But once the pandemic took hold, everybody started using the telephone because going out and getting an application or waiting for one to arrive in the mail kind of just wasn't working quite as well back then. You can go to any local Department of Human Service office, pick up an application or drop one off. You can send it in by mail or email. You can mail it directly to whom your local administrating organization or agency is, or you can send it into our LEAP inbox and we forward it on to the entity that's in charge of administering their application. Starting November 1 and going through April 30th, people can apply in the PEAK online website. And on PEAK, as we know, for most social services programs, it's a one-stop shop. So you can apply for multiple programs at the same time. And there is the website for PEAK. Next slide. So we basically have three qualifying factors. People need to be responsible to pay home heating costs, and that needs to be verified with heat bills or rent receipts if you are paying your landlord directly. And then the next, click on the next color there, if you would please. We have to have at least one member in the household that is either a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the United States. Household members born outside of the United States are required to provide verification either of their legal residency or their citizenship. And the last little thing there, the income limits up to 60% of the state median income, and income also needs to be verified, and you can do it with pay stubs or award letters from Social Security. We need some source of verification of the income. Next slide. So our monthly gross income, 60% of state median income. Here's a chart that just lists per household per month what the income limits are. And our benefits this year, the minimum payment going out is $200 and the maximum is $1,000. What that means is that once we get through our math calculation to determine how much your benefits are, then if your benefit would happen to come out less than 200 or even minus 200, we're going to give you a minimum benefit of $200, and the maximum benefit would be $1,000. So if your benefit computed out to be $1,100 benefit, we're only going to give you $1,000. That's the cap on how high our benefits go. Next slide. So LEAP is like other state programs, public assistance programs, where it's a state supervised, county administered program. It's also a seasonal program. So many counties did not like ramping up every year, bringing in the staff and then ramping down. The resources it took to set up the computers for the staff in the counties, a lot of different things. So at this point, we have 9 counties that self-administer the program within their counties, and we have 55 counties that are under what we have as a statewide contract, and Goodwill in Colorado Springs actually administers the program for the other 55 counties. Now, all 55 counties get funding from us for outreach so that they are available to accept applications, to scan and email them over to Goodwill, to help people fill out applications. So there is a LEAP presence in every county, but actually doing the work, it only happens in 9. Next slide, please. So some comparison and seasonal highlights. Total benefits in FY23 was $50 million. And part of that is there was still some COVID funding left in there, pandemic relief funding. In FY24, benefits were issued at a total of 31 million. And we saw actually in 23, we didn't have pandemic relief money, but we got federal some stimulus money, an extra, quite a bit of money. Obviously, you can see that the program has taken a big hit on funding. We're going into an election year. We're going into another year of continuing resolution, and our funding really, the forecast is it will be very flat. So there's not going to be additional funding coming into the program. In FY23, we helped 88,938, and last year it was 85,488. And over the course of those couple of years, we've at least seen an economic turnaround, and some of those households that we had been serving during the pandemic have recovered and may not be needing our assistance this year. And then our average benefit in 23 was $562, and in 24 $362. And again, that's what the difference in funding can do. If we don't get as much money, we can't help with as much money. Next slide, please. So some of our outreach strategies, we have what we call an outreach incentive program. So for any county, self-administering or not, they can apply for an additional outreach grant of $20,000. And what that does is target decreasing denials for people not getting their documents to us, the verifications that we need, and increase enrollment in the program. So our LEAP system has lists of everybody who's got an info request out, and these outreach incentive dollars are that the people in the counties are actually reaching out and saying, do you need any help getting your documents to LEAP? We've seen enrollment increase. We've seen it be very effective, and we're continuing to do that this year. This year, we have a marketing firm, Spirica, that leads our outreach efforts, and we now have a new federal Justice 40 tool, and so we're going to start identifying more households who are unenrolled in the in the disadvantaged communities. So next year we'll know how effective that was. We do track it. And then this year or last year, what we did was we changed our rule, which sits in state statute, so that if someone was denied because they didn't get us the verification that we needed, they had to start the process over again and they had to reapply. Now we say, if you get us the stuff, we will reopen your case and you don't have to start over. All we need is what we asked for from the get-go. So we coupled that with the outreach incentive program to get people following up with these families so we can get them enrolled, because there's nothing worse than having someone put their foot in our door and not being able to then reach them and serve them. So it's a mechanism that we coupled together so that we could break down barriers and make it easier for individuals. Next slide, please. Well, thank you. You are appreciated. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Ms. Crandall, should we do the other presentation, or would you like to do questions now?
I think you have time for a couple of clarifying questions if you'd like, and then, but it's up to you.
Commissioner Plant, any clarifying questions, or should we just go to the other presentation?
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, obviously, you probably have had a reduction in applications after the COVID that ran out. But my understanding is the continuing resolution just kind of would continue to fund you at the same level. Do you see your applications going up and down, sort of commensurate with, those funding levels, or are you just continuing to see an increase in applications?
We saw an increase in applications, a drastic increase, 10% over the prior year for 5 straight years. Last year was the first year that we saw a slight reduction in benefits. I'm assuming that's because of some people recovering after the pandemic, right? But we still hit our outreach extremely heavy. We don't limit the number of applicants based on what we think our funding is going to be. We will do our best to provide. provide a benefit for every single household that applies.
And when you get, does the block grant change with the continuing resolution, or is it just basically at the same level as whatever the block grant was the previous year? Do they increase it by inflation, or is there something?
Okay, so it's already written in the bill right now, or not the bill, the budget, that the funding level will stay exactly the same. There's no additional funding going into the program this year. When it's a continuing resolution, most programs only get enough funding to go through the continuing resolution, and then you wait for the next one. When you get your next, with LEAP, we get 90% up front of what our allocation is supposed to be, and then they hold back 10% for any adjustments that may have happened until the point where the feds finally adopt the budget. But because we're a winter crises program for the majority of the states, right? It is known that we need our money up front to start serving people come November, right? We can't just, because we get probably 2/3 of our applications in the first 2 months of the program. So if you're thinking about, you know, right now, today, we probably already have, because we do an early mass mail, we have close to 25,000 applications coming up for the program year that starts November 1. And we do a mass mailing to anybody who got leave last year, who may have been denied for certain reasons, so they can get a jump start. And you know, some of our most vulnerable populations are sitting in this pool, and we get to serve them and be proactive prior to the heating season, get them enrolled and get them on there, because they depend on our funding.
Great, thank you very much.
Commissioner Gilman?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. Thank you for your presentation, first of all. And you had mentioned, I think, that in the majority of the counties, Goodwill does the processing of the applications to kind of determine qualification. And I was just curious, especially with kind of the lumpiness, it sounds like, of how applications come in, with a ton of them front loaded in the beginning of when you take applications, you know, to what extent is that a appropriately sized resource? Does that create kind of a bottleneck, especially during these very busy flux times of having tons of applications? You know, is there any concern that that slows down the process or creates a bottleneck in terms of the capacity to get through applications in a certain amount of time?
So we have it in our rule that emergency applications need to be, if their approval's done within 14 days, if it's a regular application, they have up to 30 days to get the application processed. Yes, there is a bottleneck. However, they have been doing this for a number of years, so they do mandatory overtime at the beginning of the heating season to make sure that they're meeting the requirements. I meet with them every 2 weeks so that we check on numbers, we check on stats, we see how they're doing, what kind of support might they need. And so far this year, I think they're doing better than they ever have. We've learned, maybe 3-4 years ago, there was a terrible bottleneck and people were waiting just awful time. So we worked with them to make sure that we were helping them set up a structure where they could meet the needs as it was coming in the beginning of the heating season. So they do a pretty darn good job.
Understood. Just one other clarification for me to understand now. You had mentioned that at least one member of the household has to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident in order to get that assistance. what if that's not the person who's on the utility bill or who's on the lease? Are you able to link up household members, or is it necessary that that person be the person whose name most of the
No. No,
utilities?
if the applicant doesn't meet our eligibility of citizenship and or lawful permanent resident, it doesn't mean that they're not going to get a benefit. We still link up the applicant with the utility company, even though they're not considered a LEAP eligible household member. So we
Understood.
have
So
a
in that,
lot of mixed.
scenario, they wouldn't get LEAP, but you're referring them to the utility?
No, we would still look at them for eligibility. We don't discount anyone because the bill happens to be in a name of someone who we can't count as an eligible household member, right? So we have a lot of mixed status households, so that comes up quite a bit. It does not disqualify them for program eligibility.
Okay, so you can still get an application from someone who is a US citizen or a permanent resident, even if perhaps the utility bill's in a different household member's name or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to understand that better. Back to the chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Cullen. Greatly appreciate your work and your coming to visit with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Ms. Brown, Director of Energy Assistance and Solar Programs at Energy Outreach, Colorado. Ms. Brown, you're up.
Good morning. Should I be sharing the presentation or are you all sharing it?
I'm hoping we're sharing it.
Yeah, I'm happy to share it. Just give me a second to switch between them.
No worries. Good morning, everyone.
Morning. A very calming background you have with the lights low in the clouds.
Our new VP of Comms and Marketing developed these nice backgrounds for us all. So yeah, they're nice. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about our program and the lessons from the 23-24 season, and then what we're looking towards for the next season. We talk about heating seasons here, but EOC is a year-round program, so we don't start and stop in the heating season. We offer bill assistance throughout the year, and I should have included some more slides, particularly about our program, but I will go over this and I can share this after as well. So we are a nonprofit. Our funding comes from a number of sources. Some of it comes for bill assistance, especially it comes from the EASBC charge on the regulated utility bills. We also have private donations. We get late payment fees from Excel Energy, and donations from other utilities as well. So our program, in contrast to LEAP, again, is a year-round program. In order to qualify for EOC bill assistance, you need to be past due on your bill. So it's not the same as a credit program. You do have to be past due, and we will help with that past due balance. We help households that are at 80% area median income or lower. We do not check documentation status at all. So those households that might be reluctant to apply for LEAP or know that they are not eligible for LEAP can apply for EOC bill assistance as long as they meet our income requirements and are past due on their bill. And they do also have to pay their bill directly to a energy provider or vendor. So those that have their electricity or heating included in rent would not be eligible for our program like they would with LEAP. So here are our program numbers from this past year and the year before. As you can see, we helped quite a bit more households in most utility territories this past year. A lot of that has to do with our funding and that EASBC charge that we are getting about 50% of the money collected from that goes directly to energy assistance. And that's higher than ever this year. And I will discuss what will happen next year, but we had just record amounts of funding this year. And so we were able to help a record number of households. As you can see, it was quite a bit of a jump for Xcel Energy customers. There is a difference in the average benefit, which I think has to do with the fact that gas rates the year prior were very high. And that also may be affecting LEAP numbers as well, too. Just thinking about the gas rates the year prior being so high, more people applying. And so we had more people applying for our program, but the average benefit and the amount that they were past due was lower slightly. So yeah, and in addition to the funding that we have spent in regulated utility territory, we also spent about 2.3 million in all unrestricted territory, or all territory outside of the regulated utilities. So that includes on propane, firewood, all those electric co-ops in those areas. And I think Tricia mentioned earlier, we are a statewide program. We do provide assistance all over the state and to all utilities. However, the funding is far more restricted in those areas that are not covered by the 4 regulated utilities. So next slide, please. So some highlights. Again, I mentioned we had record high budgets for bill assistance this past year in regulated utility territory. So we provided quite a bit of emergency assistance. Even though we were able to provide this much assistance, again, we know that the need is still very high. I think it's 400 to 500,000 households would count as income qualified based on our 80% area median income in the state. So there's still a long way to go. We did, similar to what Tricia said about rural counties and harder to reach communities, more targeted outreach was needed in those areas, especially in ATMOS and CNG territory. We did do a targeted blitz in ATMOS territory in Greeley in August that really helped. We had the assistance of our partner agencies, one of our partner agencies, Goodwill, to help out with that, where we invited households that were past due to come and get assistance, and that proved really effective. We also held a number of webinars in CNG territory with their customers. They were really well attended, and I think this was a really good strategy for especially reaching those rural households that might have more difficulty going to an agency. And then we did partner with Xcel Energy on a number of initiatives to do targeted outreach. So we worked with them on their red truck events that they're doing, attending a lot more outreach events throughout the state. And then we partnered with them to send out pre-filled energy assistance applications to a number of households. I think we sent over 20,000. They sent over 20,000 pre-filled applications. And that led to a lot of record spending at the end of our program year, especially in Xcel Energy territory. So those numbers that we see in Xcel territory had a lot to do with that initiative that we did. And just to go back also, I mentioned our agency partners. The way our program is administered is largely through partners throughout the state. So we have a partner agency network. A lot of these are organizations that will help with multiple assistances. So they may help with food banks, rental assistance, help with SNAP applications, things like that. And so someone can go, if they're in need, they can go to a local agency, get multiple assistances in addition to our EOC assistance. And so that helps us deliver so much assistance throughout the state. But that does also limit sometimes people's ability, if they are in rural areas and we don't have coverage with an agency maybe near them, it can be a little difficult sometimes for people to go to an agency in person. Some of our agencies do help remotely, and Goodwill, that also processes LEAP application, is one of our biggest partners that will assist households throughout the state remotely as well via email to help with energy assistance. Next slide, please. So I'm going to echo some of the challenges that Tricia talked about related to PIP. I do want to say before getting into this that we're really excited that we were able to advocate to get EOC participants referred into the PIP program, because prior to that, again, you would have had to apply for LEAP during LEAP season and be approved, and you're only applying for your heating utility. So there wasn't necessarily an easy way to get in if you're on gas heating, getting referred to an electric PIP program. I don't know how that was handled prior, but with our program, since we help with both electric and gas, we and with other fuel types, for PIP program at least, we can refer to both the electric program or the gas program because we help with both of those. And I think too, this just allows, the PIP program allows our funding to go a lot further. And we know that the need is so great out there. The more folks we can get into this long-term affordability program, longer-term affordability program, the more we can get new folks in to help with those arrearages, take care of their emergency, and then get them into a more long-term affordability program. So we see the benefits as being numerous and really helping to extend, increasing the number of folks that are in need that are served by assistance programs. So with that being said, there are still a lot of challenges that Tricia talked about. And I will say all of those folks that I included that received assistance were sent over to the utilities to be enrolled in PIP if they qualified. We have had some difficulty, though, trying to figure out the best way to educate folks on this program. Part of it is that for my own education, it was difficult understanding all the differences across the utilities. There's a different name for this program and based on different utilities. So Excel calls it EAP, the Electric Affordability Program, Gas Affordability Program. That's how it appears on people's bills. Black Hills calls it the Black Hills Energy Affordability Program, and then Atmos and CNG both call it PIP. So it's difficult trying to explain this and trying to wrap my head around it, then to explain it to all of our partner agencies that are the ones working with the participants. And those partner agencies also are they have capacity issues most of the year because, like I said, a lot of them are helping with numerous programs. So having them also explain this somewhat complicated program that these folks are going to be referred to is another ask that we're adding to their plate. And then having that different name across them and having them have to pick which utility they're on, it can be just very difficult to explain. So, and then how the utilities deliver this differently. I think Tricia explained that Excel provides an arrearage forgiveness and a monthly credit to some they just provide an arrearage forgiveness, some they just provide the monthly credit if they don't have an arrearage. So explaining like the benefit of it is also can be difficult. There is also the issue of if we explain this program to them and then they are not enrolled because they don't meet that energy burden eligibility, they don't necessarily get informed about that. They will get a letter in the mail if they are enrolled in the program, but that can sometimes be easy to miss. So we've kind of been going back and forth on what would be the best way forward. And I do think what Tricia was saying about making sure everyone is educated about this program, so then they know to check if they are enrolled or not is good, but it's also can be difficult to educate folks with the number of folks that we're assisting to. We are working on getting directions out to everyone to check so people can check to see if they are enrolled or not. They can call the utility, ask for, am I enrolled in EAP, GAP, or BHEAP, or PIP? And then the big thing too is the roll-off date discussion. So we have folks that receive EOC assistance that are referred to the program are guaranteed 12 months into the PIP program. We talked with the utilities and they all agreed that they were going to enroll them in another year of the program to just give us some time to increase that education and awareness around it. But this year is going to be a big test to see how can we get folks re-enrolled in this program, re-qualified, because unlike with LEAP, where people are applying every year and getting that credit, our program requires people to be past due in order to get our assistance. However, we would love that if they are enrolled in PIP, they don't fall past due again. But then if they are in it, they drop off of PIP, then they're past due again. I mean, they can reapply, but we would just like them to stay with an affordable bill. So another thing is just thinking about having PIP be a multi-year program, I think could be really effective too, and helping to get more people in the system, and help us with the communication around enrollment and re-enrollment and roll-off and all of those things. We did work with Tricia and the Utility Bill Help Program to figure out the best way to deal with referrals. So LEAP is referring folks that are denied LEAP to the Utility Bill Help Program. And then if they are qualified through another assistance program, they may get sent over that way. But a lot of folks that Tricia was seeing did have an arrears in addition, and that they wouldn't get immediate arrears help, or if they were in disconnection, that could be difficult to get them immediately in PIP. So we set up a system where we refer folks from Utility Bill Help directly to us that we could help if they were facing disconnection. But that also kind of became tricky to administer and added to our admin burden on our side. And it just feels a little clunky to be, if you are someone, I think, coming into this process, you've applied for LEAP, you get denied LEAP, you're sent to this, you hear about this Utility Bill Help program, but then you're told, oh, actually apply for EOC assistance because they can help. It's just a lot of back and forth. So we've been thinking through a lot of how to best maybe streamline these. And I think sometimes LEAP refers folks to EOC assistance if folks are denied, but making that a little more clear, I think, could be helpful also. If someone is denied LEAP, but they're in arrears or have a disconnect notice, they can get our EOC assistance, and then also get in the pipeline for PIP as well. Yeah, so next slide. So plans for 24-25, again, we're a year-round program. Our program year runs October 1 to September 30th. And so we just started our new program year, and we're seeing folks apply again for assistance. They can apply once per program year, by the way. I don't know if I said that also. So they can only get one arrearage forgiveness through our program per program year. So this year, while last year we had kind of record funding for all of these utilities, this year, the way the EASBC funds are split up is a little different. we're giving over about $8 million to jumpstart the EEBT program, which is a way of merging LEAP and utility benefits with SNAP in order to unlock more SNAP benefits. So we believe when this program is operating, it will be a really huge benefit to the state and to folks who are receiving SNAP. But it does mean that we have, because we are giving 8 million of these EASBC funds to the state to administer this, we have fewer funds to provide direct bill assistance to folks. So some of those folks who maybe need assistance, again, may not be able to receive it because we run out of funding this year. TK, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, just for a second. So just talking about the energy EBT program, we just got approval from the federal level FNS to start implementing that program. And also, it's not that we had to give the money to EEBT, that actually this legislation mandates this, and that legislation was written so that there was an avenue to ensure that we could get as many SNAP households as possible an energy benefit, which could directly impact their food stamp amount. So just a little clarification there, Amy. Sorry to jump in.
No, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, that was written into the legislation. So I'm not where. Yeah, everything TK said.
Hey, Ms. Brown, we're going long, so
okay.
Yeah, we may need you to start wrapping up if you would.
Sure. So we are we have a little less funding this year. Like I said, we also have less funding in unrestricted territory, and so it's more important than ever that we're pushing people to LEAP and PIP. We're going to be doing more PIP education for agencies and participants based on all the information that we learned. And then we do have an online application that we're going to be testing this year and rolling out. And so we're hopeful that that can help, especially in rural populations, and for those that are unable to come in person to an agency. And I believe that's all I have. So sorry for going along there, and I welcome questions.
Well played. I guess Commissioner Plant, Commissioner Goman, I mean, there may be time for one brief question if you got it before Ms. Brown moves on, but Commissioner Plant.
Yeah, I'm probably the reason we're going long.
It's great. We want this.
Just one quick question. So EOC manages weatherization programs as well. I'm just wondering if there's a tie-in between cash assistance. Somebody receives cash assistance, do they automatically get enrolled in your weatherization program, or are they enrolled in the energy office's weatherization? Is there a tie between those two, and how does that work?
There's not a direct tie, largely because our weatherization assistance program, or CARE is what we call it, just does not have the capacity to serve the number of households that we are serving with energy assistance. But we do let people know, and our agency partners know about our other programs, that they refer folks to this program if they're eligible. A lot of the folks we are assisting too, I didn't have the breakdown here, a lot of them are renters. A lot might live in apartments, and weatherization might not be, even though we do assist folks that are renters if they get landlord approval, it's just a little more difficult of a process. Or if they don't live in a single family household or home, then we can't really assist them with that program. So there is some referral, but it's not a one-to-one.
Yeah, just seems like a way, if people are having a hard time with their bill, to permanently lower the bill through weatherization would sort of be an investment in the future.
Yep.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Commissioner Gilman, one question.
Yeah, sure. Just quickly, I was wondering if it would be possible to share a little bit about the partnership between EOC and the city of Denver that I understand exists around building decarbonization and kind of how it incorporates energy assistance as well as other kind of stackable benefits like solar community gardens and weatherization and things like that. Just curious if you're seeing any specific impacts of kind of a more robust partnership like we're seeing in Denver.
Yeah, so in Denver, we do have the funding from CASR to assist with, we have a healthy homes program that does kind of large retrofits around electrification, in addition to taking on a lot of healthy homes measures like getting rid of mold if there's pests, mitigation, all of that stuff. In addition to that, so part of the issue with electrification is that it can cause people's bills to go up. Even though that's efficient equipment, electric heat is still more expensive than gas heat. And so sometimes we still assist those folks, and they're definitely referred if they have a past due balance and they're enrolled in that program to our bill assistance. But then we also have a community solar program, which I didn't really get into, that provides free subscriptions to community solar. And so those folks, especially that are getting electrification, we enroll in community solar gardens that long-term should help them reduce their bill by 50%, around 50%, depending. So it's kind of also another one of our strategies for long-term affordability is to get people in PIP that receive bill assistance, refer them to weatherization, and also get them into a community solar garden that could reduce their electric bills as long as we only have coverage in Excel Electric and a little bit in Black Hills Electric territory. So it's limited by that, but those folks can also start getting solar credits for free that will lower those electric bills as well.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Greatly appreciate your work and you appearing before us. Thanks. Let's go to the electric and gas utility panel. And maybe we'll start with public service and go to Atmos, Black Hills, and Colorado Natural Gas after that. Ms. Howard, you want to get us going?
I do. I want to apologize ahead of time that I am having technical difficulties with my camera today. So I assure you it's me and I am here. But looking forward to having this discussion. Next slide. So this is just kind of some trend analysis that we've done to look at where we are and where we're headed. You'll notice our participation is up about 9% or 4.6 thousand over the 4-year average. We still have 2 months left in this program year. So when we do our year-end report, we're likely to see these numbers be a little bit higher than they were in the 23-24 program year. Additionally, the dollars per participant has also seen a tremendous increase this program year, about 46% increase over the 4-year average, which you would expect based on the changes that we requested back in May of 2023, which we can talk about more if there are questions. This is definitely in part due to the upfront arrears forgiveness that began taking place in June of 2023. Also, you may recall that we requested to remove the LEAP and EOC benefits from our monthly calculation to customers. So the monthly benefits have also increased. As expected, the number of disconnected customers that are taking part in our affordability programs remain very low, coming in under 1%. And of course, average arrears continue to trend in the right direction, coming in 15% under that 4-year average. With customers, they're coming from multiple channels now. You may recall that before our 2023-2024 program year, that we were only able to enroll customers from LEAP. Now we have EOC, utility bill help, as well as WAP. So we're witnessing a higher eligibility rate into our programs, and we're seeing new customers come into the programs. So that leads to a lower rate of non-qualification for customers, which is down by 12%. So I will say that we've gone through and completed the upfront arrears clearing for our new program participants, but we are now looking to ensure that we are doing the same for customers that are re-enrolling. We think that that's something we should probably be focused on. And I will say that there has been a slight increase in arrears in 2024. We attribute that to, some of the, now aged, but pandemic treatment that may have taken place. But that is starting to come down as well. Recovery is at also a good level per program. You may recall that back in 2021, we were under recovered in our electric program by about $4 million, and we're seeing that right sized just now. So next slide. I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about our red truck, and I know this looks a little bit wonky, but this is kind of how we're tracking our attendance and our results for red truck events. You can see here the total number of engagements we've had with customers, the average number of events, handouts. We're tracking a lot of information. And what we're seeing is, I think, an uptick really in our quality engagements with customers. And we deem that to be the count of conversations where one of our staffers were able to help a customer with an Xcel Energy related topic. And this is not just solely around energy assistance. We offer information and have computers on site to help customers with billing issues. We can offer them information about income qualified DSM and a number of handouts and applications for different programs as well. Next slide. So these are some of the outreach methods that we've been using. This kind of gives you a look at the number of campaigns we've completed by different type. I know that Amy Brown did mention our pre-filled application. That was the first one we've done in Colorado over the summer. And you'll see that it was just under the 20,000 that Amy had mentioned. The response rate is what I want to call your attention to, because I think it really demonstrates how successful this kind of outreach is. I will say that we also did try to target customers that may be in danger of disconnection. That was one of the new caveats that we brought to this particular campaign. And I think that's part of the reason that the response rate was what it was. Just to give you an idea of how successful this is and compared to some of our other campaigns. Typically in an email or automated dial campaign, we would see a response rate between 3 and 6%. And as you can see, this was much higher. So I think that, I don't know if we've seen, it's a little bit larger than 2,000 customers that have received assistance. And the 2 million referenced here is just from EOC. That doesn't include the customers that were subsequently signed up for GAP and E that are receiving more benefits as a result of that. And I'll point out that we do auto-enroll all of our customers. So there's that barrier that's been removed. And we typically see customers enrolled in our programs for a minimum of 18 months, not 12. We try to give customers as much opportunity to apply for those feeder programs before they're removed from ours. The concierge campaign, I'll just briefly touch on that. That is where we're actually taking a list of customers and we're manually calling them. We'll do a number of things like trying to call them outside of regular business hours so that we try to capture more customers at home and able to take the call. We will walk them through an application. We will send them one via email if they want it. But it's really an opportunity for us to work directly with a customer to make sure that they are getting the help that they need. Next slide. So I'll start by talking about the things that we want to continue to do. We do want to offer those campaigns. We stagger them. We will change them up from one month to the next. Like we might be doing a couple of campaigns this month that involve postcards or, a telephone call. And we might subsequently change that up in the following month to make sure that we're not trying to use the same methodology. We want to make sure we're giving customers ample opportunity to get that outreach from different methods. We are going to continue working with Red Truck. I think you'll see that we're trying to tailor where we send the truck and that Red Truck experience more to resource fairs, places where we know customers will be attending that are actually looking for maybe some assistance. And we definitely want to continue the arrears clearing pursuant to the program rules that we have. We've been focused on new participants and we'll continue to focus there as well. But as I said, we definitely want to expand that opportunity where available. So what we're looking to add is we want to continue to leverage more relationships with community agency partners in the field where we can show up, in person, wherever we might be requested. I know that we've done events even at, senior centers or other neighborhood community centers. We want to continue those kinds of efforts. We want to improve our outreach strategies. We're always looking for new ways that we can reach customers. Additional concierge efforts, as I mentioned, how those actually work. We're also looking to do some upfront announcements when we are going to be in attendance at a community event. So trying to reach customers that may be in the area or may have participated in a program in the past, and then doing more targeted outreach to customers that are closer to a potential disconnection, because we know that those are customers that need the help right now. So we've seen benefit from doing that and we want to continue to do that. What we're exploring, obviously, I'm sure you're all aware of the Energy and Insecurity Working Group. There are certainly potential options for additional bill assistance being explored there. As I mentioned previously, we want to expand arrears clearing to existing participants or renewing participants. We would be interested in looking at expanded enrollment opportunities. Have a feeling that's probably going to come up in a rulemaking, and so we want to be actively engaged in that process. We see that would increase enrollment. Right now, our enrollment is limited because we need to take customers that are coming in from feeder programs. So we think that there's certainly a potential there for us to expand our own enrollment opportunities. And any opportunity that we have to simplify the enrollment process, we're definitely interested in those as well. I think that's the end of what I have. Certainly open for questions if anyone has any.
I think you're muted there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. Greatly appreciate it. Let's go to Ms. Marin from Atmos Energy.
Hi, good morning, commissioners. My name is Diana Marin, and I'm the manager of customer advocacy here at Atmos Energy. And we're going to walk through our PIP programs to talk about what our PIP program outlook has looked like from program year 2022 through program year 2024, and also looking at our forecasting numbers for program year 25, and additionally talking about some pilots that we implemented this year and also that we're continuing to implement for the next program year. So we can go ahead and get started and move forward to the next slide. Okay, so on this slide, you can see what our program outlook has looked like from 2022 through 2024. In 2022, our surge rate remained consistent at 10 cents for the 12 months of the program. Our rate collections were 148,606, and our program costs were 156,952. factors that contributed to the growth of this program year were scheduled bill collections and increased awareness through text messaging and social media. At the end of program year 2022, when we filed our annual report, there had already been discussion of increasing our surcharge rate since we had already started to see an increase in the program. From program year 2022 to 2023, we saw a significant increase in the program. It was 105% in program participation and 242% increase in program cost. Some factors that contributed to the growth are included on this slide: increased program eligibility, since the federal poverty level was raised to 200%. There was also increased LAHI funding, more program participants, and also increased program awareness since utilities were required to be consistent in naming all programs the same. So we saw that because there was more consistency in education, there was more program awareness. So these were some factors that drove to our program. So for the first three and a half months, our surcharge remained the same at 10 cents. And for the next 6 months, it moved up to 13 cents. And at the end of the program year, we had to raise our surcharge to $1. Again, throughout the program year, as we started to see more participants, we wanted to ensure that our rate collections aligned with our benefits, and we observed that our rate collections fell short of expectations, prompting a further rate adjustment to $1. For program year 2024, again, when we raised our surcharge to $1, our primary objective was to stabilize collections and benefit costs, allowing us to recover from the shortfall that we experienced the previous year. As we were continuously evaluating our collections and benefit costs, we were in a position where Atmos Energy had collected a greater amount through the PIP charges than required to cover from PIP expenditures, requiring us to lower the rate in September to reduce that risk of triggering rules 3212. When we filed to reduce the rate, we included in there that if we were to keep the surcharge at $1, we would have been really close to hitting that mark. We were forecasting that it would be about 47% by the end of the program year, and reducing the surcharge in September would put us at 41%. So our estimated rate collections for this program year are $1,802,707, and estimated program costs are $1,090,664. And again, factors that contributed to this growth, we saw a 9% increase from 2023 to 2024, were the additional PIP vendors. Atmos, we've been able to become more strategic in our outreach. So we've been able to do more targeted outreach in vulnerable communities, and also through collaboration with EOC and local community agencies that Amy mentioned in her previous presentation. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, so on this slide, you can see what our program year looked like in 2023 that required us to increase our surcharge to $1. You can see that we started out the year really good, where our benefits paid and collections were aligned. And as we started to receive more enrollees throughout the year, you can see that disparity between the benefits paid and also collections. And in September, when we raised our surcharge to $1, you can see by the end of the program year, we started to align again in benefits paid and also collections. And you can move forward to the next slide. So the next slide includes what caused the surcharge decrease this year. So we have included on there that if we would have kept our surcharge at $1, we would have been really close to hitting that 50% threshold. You can see on here that we would have been at 47%, but allowing us to decrease to 37 cents in September. In August, we were able to decrease it to 37 cents. Okay, and you can move on to the next slide. So this is what our participant enrollment has looked like from 2022 to 2024. Again, you can see that increase from program year 2022 to 2023. And again, those factors were included on the first slide. The fact that our federal poverty level was raised to 200%, so more participants could qualify, LAHI funding increase, and also just more awareness of the program. And we saw a 9% increase from program year 23 to 24. And during that time, we have been able to increase it by just being more strategic in our outreach, having the additional PIP vendors, and also being able to collaborate with our agencies. Okay, and you can move on to the next slide. Okay, so on this slide, we show what our program costs have been for 2022, 2023, and 2024, and also the average benefit per customer for us. And in this, while we were calculating this, we noticed that there was a substantial growth in benefit costs throughout the program years. For 2023, we saw that the average benefit rose due to average bills increasing as well, tied to Winter Storm Uri for 2023, and also for 2024, since we do have additional vendors and they are not receiving LEAP benefits, we are required to cover their unaffordable expenses. So that requires us to increase our total program cost and also increase the average benefit, since we are receiving a large amount of recipients from the additional PIP vendors. Okay, and you can move on to the next slide. And on this slide, we have that differential between what we're actually using for PIP benefits versus what are included in arrears. When we receive a customer and they're a first-time customer, their arrears are covered. So you can see that differentiation there. Specifically in program year 2022, we noticed a substantial increase in arrearage payment. This was due to additional funding allocated specifically for arrearage balances received by Colorado LEAP. And again, throughout program year 2023 and 2024, those were due to increase in average winter bills. We saw that it rose 66% from program year 2022. And in 2023 to 2024, that was due to the additional PIP vendors and just requiring to pay more of their unaffordable amounts since they were not LEAP vendors. Okay, and you can move on to the next slide. So this is our forecasting for what program year 25 will look like. We saw an increase in enrollment from 2023 to 2024 of 9%. And we are forecasting to see the same increase for 2025, which is again 9%. While we were forecasting these numbers, we were trying to be very conservative with what our forecasting numbers would look like. And similarly was recently provided to the PUC when we also decreased our surcharge. So we are estimating to stay consistent as this program year and seeing the same increase for program costs. Very similarly, from 23 to 24, we saw a substantial increase, but since now we know more of what to expect, we're estimating to see a 9% increase in program cost as well, aligning with the estimated enrollment. And you can go on to the next slide. So these are some outreach and awareness that we have done for program year 24. Amy mentioned this during her presentation. We did our first splits with EOC and Discover Goodwill. The numbers provided on here were numbers that were provided to us right after the event, but we can touch base with EOC just to make sure that those are accurate. Again, it was a very successful partnership that we were able to look at where our vulnerable customers are and be able to host an event there to be able to assist them out and also just talk to them about what resources Atmos Energy has and where they can go to apply. We also did an email outreach campaign with EOC to over 3,000 customers in Weld County, Fremont, and Montezuma counties. During this campaign outreach, we provided resources where these customers with high past due payments could go to be able to receive assistance. We also updated our FIP program updates on our Atmos Energy website to be able to enhance educational awareness for whenever there's a customer in Colorado that is needing assistance, they can go onto our website to find accurate information as to what different avenues they can use to receive assistance. We were able to train our contact center staff on PIP programs just to make sure that when customers are calling in, our contact center is being able to provide informative information as to where the customer can go to receive this assistance. Our contact center is the boots on the ground. And they're the ones that are talking to our customers on a day-to-day basis. So we want to make sure that what they're providing our customers is accurate. Yes, Chairman, do you have a question?
I think you're good. No, I think you're going to need to wrap up start wrapping up relatively soon. We're getting tight on time, so.
Okay, no worries. And I included my last bullet point. We have PIP educational handouts that were created to be able to talk about at different outreach events. And we're all creating one in Spanish right now as well. And you can move on to the next slide, which is our last slide. These are just continued outreach and awareness activities that we plan to do for 2025. What we've seen is that there needs to be enhanced educational awareness of the different different PIP vendors and avenues to be able to receive assistance. So again, just trying to enhance in our marketing materials to make sure that what we're providing is easy to understand as to where they can go to receive assistance and increase awareness, being able to direct mail our customers and also email, just looking at different avenues as to where we can be able to contact our customers. If they don't have email, we'll send you a direct mail so they can know where to go to receive assistance. Continue collaborating with EOC and local agencies that are in our vulnerable communities and Atmos territory, and also continue to train our staff to make sure that all those that are coming new on board are being able to communicate with our customers in Colorado on how they can receive assistance. And that is the end of my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marin. Ms. Falbo from Black Hills.
Hi, good morning, commissioners. I'm actually Jen Bass. I'm the manager of regulatory at Black Hills Energy, Colorado. Natalie and I will be presenting on the energy assistance programs for the 2024-2025 heating season. I think Kelly is going to share our slideshow. The sun was not on my face like this when we first started, so I will talk quickly so we can keep getting moving, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to let us speak. Next slide, please. This slide is an overview of Black Hills Colorado Electric and Black Hills Colorado Gas, which are separate regulated publicly traded utilities that serve approximately 101,000 electric customers and 211,000 gas customers throughout 119 communities in Colorado. This graphic discusses some of the major communities served and gives a map of our different resources. Next slide. Or next page. Thank you. Black Hills Energy Affordability Program, or BEAP, is a percentage of income payment plan, or PIP. There are different requirements for natural gas customers and electric customers, which are detailed on the slide. In order to increase utilization of the programs, we have increased BEAP funding. Electric residential customers went from 51-cent surcharge to $1 surcharge, effective April 1st, 2024. Gas residential customers went from 4 cents to 30 cents, effective May 26th, 2024. Next slide. The current BEAP stats through the end of September are listed on this slide. We consistently work to increase enrollment for our customers to utilize the programs that they qualify. Natalie will speak to the outreach later in this presentation. On the electric side, we max at 2,600 customers. We monitor this regularly to ensure that we achieve our target enrollment. On the gas side, heating season is around the corner, and we expect to hit that target enrollment very soon. Next slide. I wanted to show this slide to illustrate the consistent decreases in the ECA and GCA over the last 2 years. Natural gas prices have stabilized. During Storm Uri in February 2021, natural gas prices soared as high as $190 per MMBTU, where before they were in the $2 to $3 range. The company incurred higher than normal commodity costs as a result. In proceedings 21A-0197E and 21A-0196G, the companies reached settlements to recover extraordinary gas costs through the EGCRR. In April 2023, the EGCRR for Black Hills Colorado Gas's Western Slope GCA customers ended. Then in April 2024, the EGCRR for all Black Hills Colorado electric customers ended. In addition to the conclusion of the EGCRR riders, customers are also seeing relief through decreasing ECA and GCA shown above, due in part to lower and more stabilized commodity costs. Next slide, please. I thought this slide was interesting. It's quoted from the EIA site for short-term energy outlook for the 2024-2025 winter heating season. According to EIA, natural gas heated homes in the West may experience slightly lower residential natural gas prices compared to the last winter heating season. Also, winter heating season temperatures in the West are expected to be relative to last winter, which would mean more stabilization and lower costs. I just thought this slide was interesting to show you a bit of a forecast. I will now turn the, oh, go ahead.
Can I just ask quick, is that because there's plenty of gas here and the differential between us and Henry Hub is smaller than other parts of the West? Is that what you think's going on here?
I think that may be accurate, yes. I believe so. It's more stabilized in that regard, I believe.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And I will turn this over to Natalie. She's going to discuss our EA programs.
Thanks for the quick presentation as we scrambled.
Jen's working really hard to get us back on schedule. Thanks so much, Jen. And good morning, everyone. And commissioners, thank you for having us this morning and giving us the opportunity to share what our team is doing to prepare for the heating season. My name's Natalie Falbo, and I'm the Energy Assistance Program Manager for Black Hills Energy, supporting our Colorado Gas and our Colorado Electric territories. You know, as a company, we started recognizing the need to focus on energy assistance in our income qualified customers more recently as we were researching changes in the industry and in our communities that we serve. In Colorado alone, we found that of all of the customers eligible to receive LEAP in the entire state, only 17% were actually receiving those funds. In the last couple of years, our JD Power surveys were telling us that 40% of our customers were reporting being financially worse off than in previous years. Transitioning to this new focus on energy assistance was really the next step in the customer experience journey for us. So earlier this year, our company actually transitioned my previous role to an energy assistance program manager. My previous position as a customer experience program manager really gives me this unique set of skills and frankly, a curiosity about our customers, and not just our customers' demographics, but really in their experiences as our customers. So we're analyzing why and how we do what we've done for so long and working to make changes and improvements. Ultimately, the goal is to make it easier for our customers to find, apply for, and benefit from the assistance they need, and then find ways to improve the existing programs and processes for our most vulnerable customers. With my position being located in Pueblo, Colorado, I'm able to understand the communities and the customers that we serve on a different level and work to understand their barriers to getting assistance. Next slide, please. So to improve our outreach efforts, we took a strategic three-pronged approach. You know, first we analyzed the need by doing our due diligence and studying our customers. We took our internal customer data, used what we know about our customer sentiment based on those customer experience surveys that we've sent out for so long, and used census information as well to kind of try to pinpoint areas of improvement. Next, we created an awareness campaign to reach our customers where they are with emails, social media posts, even some bill messages and postcards. Finally, we worked with and will continue to work with and partner with our local community agencies to gather feedback from really the teams that are out there working with our most vulnerable customers. Through our analysis and research, we know that our customers are consistently saying that they want safe, reliable service at affordable costs. We found that almost 14% of all of our customers across our territory are living in poverty. We found that there's a lot of people in need that don't know about the resources available to them. We know there's a gap in available funding and customers actually receiving the funding. And we know that the application process can be cumbersome, can be confusing. We know that there just isn't enough time in a day for our local community agencies to help all of our customers. The photo you see here is actually a community agency event that we held at our Pueblo Service Center. We gathered just local agencies together to get feedback, have conversation, share different activities and resources that we have going on, and then just give them the opportunity to network with each other and have that conversation. We plan on doing events like this in the future. We really use the knowledge that we've learned to kind of guide our activities. And in the next couple slides, I'll share a few examples of some of the projects that my team is working on and will continue to kind of improve upon and develop as we develop this role further. Next slide, please. So we worked with our data team to help create sort of a heat map to show customers that already have assistance today, and then customers that have the potential to need energy assistance. It's a very high level example of some mapping we're trying to do in our areas of our customers. What you see here is our service area kind of color coded. So the shaded areas there are our gas territories. And the first image on the left, you'll see smaller blue dots, and those indicate our gas customers that have received energy assistance in the last 2 years. The second image, those blue dots indicate potential energy assistance customers. And then the red dots in both indicate the same, but for our electric customers. Well, this is in the very early stages of development. This just really starts us down this path and this road of identifying the areas that might have a greater need, and has really created more questions and more opportunities for our team to dig into. Next slide, please. So in conversations and partnerships with our local community agencies and working to understand the process that customers go through to find assistance, we realized we really needed some tools and resources to help. So we created a few flyers and leave behinds to assist when interacting with customers, either in the public, local community events. In our research, we also found that according to the Colorado LEAP statistical information on their website, that of the over 136,000 LEAP applications that we received last year, almost 23% of those were denied due to failure to provide complete information or verification. So with that understanding, we kind of use that to help create a tool for our customers to help them be more successful in that LEAP application process. So the document to the far right on your screen is a resource we created to help customers through the application. And during the creation process of this, we partnered with a few of our agencies to gather feedback, understand from them, what makes sense, what works, what doesn't work on that document. We iterated a couple different versions of this and created what you see here. So the full document is actually double-sided, but the example we shared is the backside, and that's where the more detailed, specific information to kind of help guide a customer through that application process. And then we also created a QR code to get them to our website to talk about more other payment assistance type tools like payment arrangements, budget billing, that kind of thing. Next slide, please. Another part of our awareness campaign we worked on was website enhancements. So our goal here was to create a more simplistic path for our customers to navigate to their state-specific page. So as you see on the far left, our landing page directs customers to choose their respective state. And then once they navigate to Colorado, we're encouraging them to apply for LEAP first, as you see in the middle where it states start here. We also added a link just below that to our newly created energy assistance application checklist that we just talked about. And as you scroll a little further down that page, you'll see options like Black Hills Cares, which is our kind of donation program, 211, the PTC rebate. We actually work directly with a staff member at the PUC to be sure that this property tax rent heat rebate was linked for customers to have easy access to the information while that program is still available and has funding. We also added a bill message to all of our Colorado customers on their November and December bills to share that PTC rebate. And then on the next section of that page, you'll see a link to our BEEP program or the PIP program, and then information for EOC. Next slide, please. Finally, we did create a more targeted customer communication to this more specific audience. So with the data that we talked about earlier in the presentation, we created kind of two different mailing groups to two different sets of customers. One was energy assistance customers that have received assistance in the last 2 years, and then the other was potential energy assistance customers. Both communications encourage customers to find the assistance options on our website should they need it. The language is just a little different, kind of based on that audience. We did use a multi-channel approach to this outreach, and we'll also be launching a couple of social media posts later on this month, into next month, to encourage people who might need energy assistance. Hey, LEAP window is opening, kind of give them a target to apply for that help. These communications are ongoing, and they're strategically timed throughout the heating season to encourage customers to apply for assistance. Next slide, please. So our Team Ready campaign is really meant to be a resource for all of our customers. So during these campaigns, we really choose messaging that resonates with most of our audience during those seasons, while keeping our priorities of providing safe, reliable, cost-effective energy front of mind. So as you can see, fall is really centered around weatherization. And you can jump to the next slide, please. And our Team Ready Fall, those are really communications for all customers and mostly focused on weatherization and preparing. So communications during this season are really around energy conservation with tips and tricks to weatherize your home, preparing for winter with energy assistance resources and programs, and then safety home projects like making an emergency plan or checking carbon monoxide batteries. And next slide, please.
We're going to need you to start wrapping up soon. Just up. All right.
You got it. I'm on the last one. No worries. Yeah. We just wanted to close out by saying we're really looking forward to next year. We're anxious to know sort of the Commission's plans moving forward. We do anticipate some direction and changes around our PIP program. We've already been looking at that program design and to see if there's any room for improvement, as we know there probably is. You know, our customers and their experience through that process of finding and obtaining assistance that they need is really driving our activities, and we anticipate a lot of opportunities for improvement as we start to uncover more details and learn from our peers. So that's all I have. I'll open it up for questions if we have any.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Cervantes, CNG. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Cervantes. I'm a regulatory affairs specialist for CNG, and I'm here to give a quick presentation on our customer affordability program. And in the interest of time, I'll try to go as fast as possible. Next slide, please. So our customer affordability program, or CAF for short, is a supplemental program that's designed to help income qualified customers achieve affordable gas bills by providing them a benefit. And that benefit comes in two main forms. The first one is a company calculated credit that gets applied directly to each customer's account in one lump sum payment. And we also offer a one-time arrearage forgiveness to each customer. And that benefit is calculated based on these three primary factors, which are customers' income, their total gas bill over the last 12 months, and where they fall on the federal poverty level. Next slide, please. So customers are enrolled. Customers are eligible if they meet one of these three criteria, which I believe is true for all of the utilities, so I won't get into detail on those. And could we automatically enroll qualifying customers who receive assistance from LEAP, EOC, CEO, or the Utility Bill Help Program? Next slide, please. So just a couple of quick updates from this last year. We expect our program expense to be approximately $270,000 for this last year. And I would like to note that due to an inconsistency in the income data formula between information provided by EOC and LEAP, that went unnoticed by the company. We inadvertently provided more benefits to customers in the 2023-2024 season. And without this error, the company would have seen similar levels of expenses as opposed to the previous year. I think it's important to note that no customers were negatively harmed due to this error. Next slide, please. And so these next couple of slides are just some data trends that we've seen over the last couple of years. And as you can see, we've seen a large increase in applicants and participants. I think this is mostly due to the increased effort that we've made to get increased knowledge of our programs and available assistance to each customer. And these two bars on the right show what the recipients would have been if the error had not occurred and what they are with the error. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the total amount of benefit that we've given to customers over the last 3 years. And again, as you can see, we've seen quite the increase in benefits that each customer has received in the last 3 years. Next slide, please. And this slide just shows the average benefit that each customer has received, again, in the last 3 years. Next slide, please. So as far as customer outreach goes, we've been pretty aggressive in the last year or two, trying to inform customers of the assistance available to them. We sent emails and letters to every customer who has received assistance, reminding them to re-enroll in these programs if possible. We've posted notices on our website and social media platforms. We've also sent out bill inserts and onserts. And if a customer is enrolled in our program, we will send them a letter informing them that they've been enrolled in our CAP program and what their benefit is. I think it's also important to know that any customer that has been enrolled in our CAP program has not been disconnected during the last 2 years. And while we haven't done a deep dive into this, we think it's because that being enrolled in our program highly decreases your chances of being disconnected. And I think there's been some recent interest in using geospatial and more data-driven work. And after doing some preliminary research, we've been able to determine that our meters are geocoded, and we would be happy to explore efforts to better reach customers. And I believe that is all I have. So, any questions?
Thank you, sir, Mr. Cervantes. Let me go back to Ms. Crandall. How would you like to proceed? We're maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes behind schedule.
Sure, thank you, Commissioners. We do have about 20 minutes padding at the end of this meeting, so if you'd like to do a few questions, I can make my section fairly short, but I'm also happy to move ahead and we just see what time we have after.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't view commissioner questions as cutting per se, but yeah, why don't you go ahead and then we'll see if we can have some times at the end for commissioner questions. So keep going, Ms. Crandall.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. Ms. Nancy and I are just going to close us out at the end here and talk a little bit about policy updates related to different activities and potential next steps. So this is a little bit of a preview of coming attractions that isn't going to be super specific, but we're really looking forward to talking to you all about the more specific actions. So there are 6 different related tracks of affordability work I'll flag. And just to be clear, this isn't every case. This is things that are a little bit more agency-led, PUC staff-led, or new legislative direction. So as Ms. Anstey talked about, we have the utility bill help program that is continuing to provide gap filling and enroll customers in PIP programs. There is an energy assistance working group that's a collaborative that is now being run by PUC staff. The Colorado Energy Office has facilitated this for a number of years previously. But it is many of the folks who are on this information meeting and others who are involved in program delivery, really talking about information sharing and problem solving. It's been a place where some of the suggestions and fixes that people have talked about throughout this session have been discussed and workshopped. We have work to evaluate and look at potential improvements to the percentage of income payment plan programs. This includes the evaluation report that was filed several months ago, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second here, and beginning to get comments on that, starting to hash out, which recommendations need further vetting. There is the process of creating equity rules to implement Senate Bill 272, which you've also recently heard some updates on at the weekly meeting. So right now, advisors are continuing to work on development of the proposed rules to bring that forward. We're still benchmarking January of 2025, but that would include a proposal for an energy equity plan that starts bringing together more equity and affordability concepts. You all have required monthly and annual disconnection reporting through rules and decisions. We are actively monitoring those reports as they come in and looking at how trends may suggest there's some need for increased outreach, things like that. We would like to move into proposing something that's simpler and more streamlined in the future. Just we haven't gotten there yet. And then there is new legislation, Senate Bill 24207, which looks at the prospect that community solar garden subscribers in the future will need to accept a lot of different forms of income information for validating income qualified customers, including not only the paths that you all have been talking about today, but also self-attestation, other state and local programs. And so, I think a track we'd like to explore is where are we now with that and how does it apply to other kinds of programs and initiatives? I'll briefly talk about the PIP evaluation report and summarize some of the findings. This was a long time in coming. It is required to do a report every 3 years evaluating the PIP programs. And so the most recent one was filed in April, and a huge thank you to Jocelyn Durkay and Megan Ottenson at the Colorado Energy Office, who project managed and spearheaded this, consistent with the rules and really put a lot of time and effort and thought into all of this work. You all issued a decision seeking some initial stakeholder comments on this report. And the next 2 slides, I'll basically talk about some of the takeaways from the report and then some of the things that we're starting to do based on the stakeholder comments and the report and the things that Ms. Anstey is working through with the UBH implementation. Couple of key takeaways. The report was completed by GDS Associates. One thing to just that I always want to emphasize is that they surveyed participants, they held focus groups. A number of us had the privilege of sitting in on those focus groups and talking with customers participating in PIP programs. They were basically unanimous that PIP programs make their bills easier to pay, help them make smart decisions for themselves about how to allocate money for other things, rent, medicine, and so forth. So, while there are critiques that were raised by participants of the programs, overall, the benefit was hugely important to them. GDS estimated that the utility PIT programs serve about 20% of over 400,000 potentially eligible Colorado electric and gas customers. That's just for the utilities, and the majority of that is going to be larger utilities, so Xcel electric and gas customers. But I think this is the kind of, there are a few ways of looking at this. As Howard mentioned, the Energy and Security Working Group has been looking at methodologies for how to calculate this. But I think it's very consistent with what you always hear, that there are many more people who are potentially eligible than are being served by programs. Another takeaway is that the average income for PIP participants in 2022 was in the realm of $20,000 to $25,000 a year. But as Ms. Anstey was indicating, there are many situations in which this is considerably lower. And the report was finding examples of $6,000 a year, for example, would be a typical annual income where people would be getting PIP service. And then there were some demographic and other analyses that were conducted by GDS Associates. One piece they found was that PIP participants are more likely than non-PIP participants to have a household member who has a disability or a durable medical device, which we think suggests some opportunities for further connection with other types of programs. And among the recommendations GDS made, there are just sort of three categories I'll highlight. One is, think about the level of funding that is appropriate from ratepayers to fund income qualified assistance programs. Should there be more dollars available to provide benefits to more people? Another recommendation is they were flagging how there are differences in how utilities are calculating the benefits for programs, whether the benefits are tiered, how they're providing arrearage credits. Many of these practices are not necessarily outlined in rules, so they're things that are being developed for program implementation purposes. And the work with the Utility Bill Help Program has really contributed to developing more insights on this. And so there is a possible area to explore some standardization where that's appropriate. And GDS also raised the possibility to improve the evaluation process itself through having more base documentation available, a clearer set of data to be collected and maintained by the utilities for evaluation and so forth. And so what we are doing with this information, there's no, specific next step by rule. The evaluation report has been accepted. You all have gotten some initial comments on it. We are beginning to bucket these suggestions from GDS and others into big picture policy issues. So some of these bigger questions that you all are asking around, is 6% energy burden correct? Or are there other ways of doing this? We're also looking at more the specific implementation issues. So some of these questions around some utilities apply arrearage credits up front, some do it over time. Some have disconnection locks, some don't. Looking at some of those mechanics. And some of those mechanics could be near-term things that could be worked on. Some might be more long-term, bigger picture. We're also looking at the administrative side. What does the commission need to monitor and evaluate programs? And I would put with that, how can we consolidate some of the reporting, simplify that? I'll turn to Ms. Anstey in a minute to talk about some of the reporting that's being done around programs in the near future. And then the last category is more the communication and education. We've heard a number of initiatives that different utilities and other service providers are engaging in to get the word out better, try to make it easier for people to enroll. There's still other things that can be done to get people enrolled without necessarily changing rules or statutes or anything like that. So the plan is after this meeting, we want to bring forward more of a specific proposal to you all to have some tracks of work to figure out what kind of things might be more near-term changes, what kind of things might be more long-term work, and what is connected out of all those other initiatives that I presented. So that's it for me, and I'll turn it to Tricia again.
Thank you, Ms. Crandall. to close us out, first of all, I want to thank the utilities for all their work with us this past year into getting up to this point, as well as Ms. Crandall's work for getting us to this point too, as she was leading this working group before I came on. We really want to increase the transparency on PIP enrollments and get more data to start understanding trends. What's working, what isn't, why do we have such low enrollments? So we are going to monthly be getting data from the utilities as well as from LEAP and EOC and WAP. And this is just an example of the spreadsheets that they'll be filling out, showing who's been referred versus who's been enrolled and that average benefit, so that we can regularly be looking at that and updating the public on that work. Next slide. So we will be creating a website where there will be an interactive dashboard where the public, anybody who comes onto the website, can select the data that they want to see. This will start happening. We won't be getting data till the end of November because LEAP doesn't start till November. So that's, when we'll start updating the website so that both, this is just example data, so nobody get too hopped up on this data right now, but it just shows, what the total spends are, what enrollments are looking like, what trends we're seeing in regards to when the enrollments happen. And then anybody who wants to know this data can have it without having to dig into the annual reports. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Ms. Enstei. Thank you, Ms. Crandall. I do have, well, first, just thanks to the utilities and thanks to EOC and the LEAP program director for, all your hard work. Sounds like some significant progress over the last year or two, and greatly appreciate you all. I just, every time I hear this, and I guess maybe Ms. Crandall and a question for Ms. Howard, it seems like we have 400,000 income qualified customers in Colorado, probably more in disproportionately impacted communities, and maybe more if you look at 6% energy burden. And we're maybe serving 1 in 5, probably significantly less. And it strikes me that what we're doing is systematically providing support to the most sophisticated customers who may need it the least, because they're the ones who can access the program. And I just, when I look at our disconnect numbers, I think in 2023 we disconnected somewhere between, I think close to 10,000 customers. And I just wonder if we should be proactively providing support to the customers who need it the most. I think there's some evidence that suggests something like 15% of the disconnected customers may be experiencing homelessness. So every time we go through this, and it's the same with the solar and DSM programs, because it's opt-in participation. It seems like we direct support to those that need it the most. So Ms. Crandall, Ms. Howard, can you help me figure out how we know who we're going to disconnect, or at least the utilities do. Is there any way we can start targeting help more towards them, those people, that community?
Well, and Deidre, is it okay if I pass it to you first? Because I know this is something you all have done more work with.
Well, Chairman Blank, I definitely share your concerns. I think this outreach that we started trying to target customers that we know are in danger of disconnection. I think part of the reason that we saw such an incredible response rate was exactly what we're talking about right now. And this was kind of our first foray into seeing, can we reach people in advance of this kind of activity and really get them the assistance that we know they have to have. And I think that I can see us expanding. I will tell you that when we removed the barrier of having to apply for our programs a number of years ago, our program enrollment doubled. So removing barriers to participation, I think, is a big topic, one that we definitely want to explore. I've talked to Trisha before about the fact that maybe the affordability percentage we're looking at is just not, it's not representative of what customers need. And I don't think that that's out of the question. In fact, I would also point to some of the work that we're doing in this working group, and how we're addressing affordability and energy burden. That may give us more information. At the end of the day, I would say that all things are, in my opinion, worth exploring, and nothing's off the table, in my opinion.
Mr. Piquet?
Thanks, Deidre, and hello, commissioners. I'm Jason Piquet on the regulatory team for Public Service Company here in Colorado. And just to echo what Deidre was saying, you know, the Energy and Security Working Group is talking about this exact piece. And I think what the key there is that we're trying to think about new ways of targeting energy burning customers that requires nothing from their perspective. We're looking at household level data as well as census block group data to try to identify those that might be most at risk, and targeting, you know, certainly communications, but
can I just
possibly
ask you,
assistance.
Can I mean, you know who you're going to disconnect, right? Because you disconnect them and you forecast it for cash flow purposes. Why can't we target those people? I mean, they're going to be the ones most in need. The earlier I mean, by the time you're ready to disconnect them, it's probably too late to do anything. They're probably the most customers most at risk of homelessness. Can you help me understand why we wouldn't target them, since you know, presumably, exactly who they are?
Yeah.
So any thoughts on that specifically? I mean, it just seems like the universe otherwise is just way too big. So curious, yeah. So,
it's a great question, Chair, and I'll bring Deidre in for this. You know, we do reach out to these customers several times before a disconnection actually happens, and I think we struggle with contacting someone or getting a response and being able to successfully connect them to our assistance programs. Of course, Deidre can talk about that more, and that's kind of the idea behind trying to identify customers who need assistance, who are not in these programs, who are not reaching out, just kind of an automatic process to say, hey, given your household level specifics or you being in a certain census area, right, here's some additional support. Those are kind of the ideas we're talking about in this stakeholder group, which I think would get at that concern you have.
But just more specifically, like on the 10,000 customers we disconnected in 2023, why wouldn't we like proactively offer assistance to them?
Yeah, Deidre, do you want to chime in about how we interface with them before a
Absolutely.
disconnection?
We definitely do outreach to customers. We have lists that we have generated that show past due balances. We're doing proactive outreach to all of them. I would also highlight, and I think this came up when we were presenting our information on the remote connect disconnect piece, that we have 9 weeks of outreach that we do to every customer, beginning with that disconnection warning. And there's always energy assistance information available to those customers. So I think we're definitely interested in other ways, and I'm very excited about the work that's going on with this working group that Jason's spearheading, because I do think it gets ahead of that in a different way, right? We're looking at the opportunity to help prevent disconnections before they even get to that point of noticing and response.
I appreciate it. It's just something I'm gonna keep asking about, because you know, I just think you know, the opt-in participation systematically skews towards the most sophisticated customers. And I think we know who is going to get disconnected probably 6 months, or at least who's at risk 6 months before they actually get disconnected. So maybe there's more we can do there. I'll stop there, turn it over to you, Commissioner Plant, anywhere you'd like to go.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I had some questions along the same lines. It sounds like CNG was just starting to talk about maybe doing some cross GIS, outreach to at-risk areas. But as you pointed out, there's we kind of know the profile that creates the problem, and we're missing 80%, it sounds like, of the people who could really benefit from the program. I just wanted to ask Ms. Anstey and Ms. Crandall, as you're looking in improvements that could be made, are you looking at alternative models maybe that don't fit within the current regulatory regime? I mean, for example, if there would be any kind of legislation that would be needed, just because this is not an issue that's specific to any utility, and it's a real challenge for the whole state. We might benefit from a whole state approach. I don't know if you've given any thought to that. I know you're still collecting really important data in order to formulate what might be, a beneficial approach and lessons learned and things like that. But as you're doing that, are you thinking both within the current regulatory regime and then outside of that as well, as so that we can maybe propose something that would address this issue across the state as opposed to utility by utility?
Yeah, and oh, Latricia, are you gonna?
No,
Maybe I'll start and you can supplement. So at least in terms of thinking through the next steps with some of these affordability programs, I would say the order of operations I'm thinking about are, continuing improvement with the great foundation that we have, trying to make things more streamlined, reduce barriers, and then starting to look at some of these bigger items in terms of the bigger policy questions. Is 6% sufficient? Do we need a more streamlined process for income verification in some ways? Some of the constraints were under our statutory, and those are things like, money collected from utility customers goes back to those same utility customers when you're working in a ratepayer model. Or there's a short list of entities that are involved in income verification and statute, things like that. So we're inventorying those. I think part of the process I'd like to bring back to you all is how we start figuring out which are the priorities to really work on, because I'm not sure we could, at this agency, focus on all of them, or if it would make sense for us to lead all of those initiatives. So for example, things involving centralization across cooperatives and investor-owned utilities, if that was on the track, maybe that makes sense for the commission to be involved, maybe it doesn't. But I know Tricia wanted to say something else, so let me just make sure I didn't.
No, you covered it.
Oh, you're good. Okay, thanks.
Well, we may have to bring this back to a weekly meeting for further discussion and next steps. I think in our last few minutes, I'll just ask you, Commissioner Goman, anywhere you'd like to go, question, comments?
I don't know if my question's brief, but I had a question for Black Hills from Ms. Balbo, or sorry, I don't have the name of the representative. So question for you. I know, as I understand it, Black Hills still has a customer waiting list to get on Black Hills Run Assistance Program. And just wanted to understand, as I understand in the PIP evaluation, there's a fair number of customers who are really on long-term assistance programs and probably long-term need help. And there seems to be a lot of instability as far as if they're able to get on your program or not, especially based on it being oversubscribed right now. So just curious, what would it take for Black Hills to get through that waiting list and be able to serve all of the people who have applied for and qualify for assistance within your service territories?
Sure, that's a great question. And I wish we had all of the answers. We are definitely exploring opportunities with different departments. So, working with our renewables team, is there a way to get customers subscribed into community solar gardens? as kind of a way to supplement that waiting list. You know, it's something that we're talking about. We did make the attempt earlier this year to increase that surcharge on the bill to help fill that gap. You know, it's tricky in our electric territory. We have a large population of low-income customers. But there's not a cooling benefit on LEAP, right? And so the only benefit they can get on the electric side of the business is to apply for BEEP, or if they're behind, they can go through EOC. There's just some limited resources on that side of the business. So we're looking at opportunities here and trying to work with different departments. I think increasing that surcharge was the first step to get us there and kind of see how that stabilizes that wait list, and just being, a little more efficient in that application process of getting customers enrolled into the program. So we're looking at opportunities. I think, what comes from the triennial evaluation, are there different ways to maybe change the program to make it easier for customers to get in? But also there's always the problem of limited funding. So we're working through some options there, and definitely taking different ideas from different departments to try to kind of supplement that waiting list a little bit.
Thanks. I just had a real quick one for Mr. Cervantes for CNG. It looks like the CNG essentially overpaid about $70,000, if I'm understanding your information you presented properly, due to kind of a misinterpretation of the data that was provided by other programs. And I was just curious, were any benefit levels changed, any acceptance changed, and additionally, who covered that $70,000 that was paid out that was extra?
There was some extra customers were eligible to be enrolled in the program due to this error. And right now, I think the plan is for the funding rate to cover that extra expense that occurred.
The funding rate being the money that's collected from other customers for the purpose of providing the program?
Yes, correct.
Those are my only questions. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to give a heartfelt thanks to everyone, especially Ms. Crandall, Ms. Anstey, Ms. Durkee, everybody, EOC, the utilities, for all your work. It sounds like significant progress since the gas price run-ups in the winter of 2022, 2023. It seems like we're making progress on better coordinating, reaching more customers, better education and outreach. So really pleased to see the process. I think I'd like to put this issue maybe on a weekly agenda sometime, maybe a few weeks out before we can do it. But I'd like to have further commission discussion on this. I'm particularly interested in taking another look at the disconnection data. I don't know, Ms. Crandall, comments?
Yeah, I would propose either a next step is either a CIM or a weekly meeting, so I can bring back a proposal for that.
Yeah, I think maybe a weekly meeting. It's so much easier to schedule. But look forward to your recommendation, and really greatly appreciate your leadership in this. It's it's visible today. Commissioner Gilman, well, I guess Commissioner Plant, any final thoughts before we adjourn?
No, just share the thanks for all of the input and the programs and all the analysis that you shared with us.
Commissioner Gilman.
Yeah, just thank you to each of our presenters today. And I think it's fairly obvious. We have a lot of really dedicated individuals and groups working on this, and appreciate you all coming and sharing with us kind of your piece of what's going on here. And it's also obvious the need is very great. And to be clear, the commission has a significant number of rate increases, riders, programs before us, all of which raise the rates. So not only is the need great now, but I don't think expected probably to subside And it's clear to me there's a lot of ground we can continue to make up with the dedicated people trying to work on this to ensure that these programs are easily accessed, able to be used by the folks who qualify, the folks who need it most. And I think that appears to me is going to require a lot of coordination across these different groups and across the state to ensure we really serve the need that's here. And Ms. Crandall, Ms. Ansley, appreciate your focus on helping to continue to keep the commission informed and focused on the best avenues to do so.
Ms. Crandall, any final comments before we break?
Not from me. Thank you very much, commissioners.
Thank you. And again, thanks to everybody, and more to come. We're adjourned.